Welcome to the Ask a Cycling Coach podcast presented by TrainerRoad. Today we have Specialized Off-Road's Matt Beers back on the podcast because we all felt an earthquake this weekend when he won Big Sugar due to the power.
Thank you.
Matt, we're going to get into some big power. This is the final round of the Lifetime Grand Prix. You won it. Congratulations, by the way. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. You're back in Africa now getting ready for Gravel Burn, which is exciting. But we're going to talk about this race that you won because it was shortened from 100 miles down to 53 miles or 86 kilometers. It's 2,926 feet of climbing or 892 meters of gain. 2 hours and 13 minutes was the duration, 24 miles per hour or 39 kilometers per hour for average speed, 405 watts average power, and 431 watts normalized power.
Good day.
For 2 hours and 13 minutes. Yeah, good day. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
At least it was short, so the pain was not as long lasting, just more painful.
This is wild. Putting this, like, everybody, think of this. Think of what your power zones are. So for me personally, at an FTP of 306, 400 watts is into my anaerobic zone. So that's like a duration that I can maintain for probably somewhere around like 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes. And Matt just did that for 2 hours and 13 minutes, which is insane, my man. Insane. I want to go into this and kind of like look at actually what you did in this race a little bit. So when we look at the power file that you can see on screen here, it's clear that the violence started really early. Like, we're going to zoom in here and just look at this section here. And if we look at this, oh my goodness. When neutral dropped, you had hard hits instantly, more hard hits, and then these long drags. Can you just run us through like the race really quick? Was it your goal to, like, as soon as the flag dropped, just go as hard as you could?
Yeah, I mean, I think we obviously got told really late. I think 10 minutes before the start, maybe. Well, it was 10 minutes for me. So I knew that would kind of play in my favor a little bit because I know a lot of these guys just kind of get flustered when things change really quick. And I feel like I kind of do well at adapting to things just because we've had to do it at Cape Epic a bunch of times. And and I know the one way we race a lot of races at this duration back home, and I know the one way to inflict, any sort of separation is just to go kind of ham in the beginning and catch people off guard, I think, is the biggest one. Like, as people have seen at a lot of these gravel races, a lot of looking around, and I feel like if you can just surprise everyone and just it's either going to work or it's not, and you may as well, try.
This is, I'm going to look at like the actual power curve for this ride so we can look at it. So in terms of let's go to 1 minute and start at 1 minute power, 693 watts for a minute. This was this drag that you did where you hit, and then after that, you just like kind of, quote, let the power drop back down to around 500-600 watts, which is just insane. Big long drag that you had here that ended up being like 2 minutes long there, but 1 minute again at right around 690 watts, and then 2 minutes at 573 watts. But the crazy part is when you look at this section here, look at how many times you're poking up above like 1,000 watts, and you do it, you're over 1,000 watts, not just for a short bit, but it's like 10 second 1,000 watt hits that you're hitting here, which is nuts. And you hit them repeatedly. That ended up splitting things up. I think Cam Jones went hard at some point, and then you kind of followed that. And then did you attack over the top? How'd the separation happen?
Yeah, he put one very big dig, like on the tarmac section after all the first two like dips that we went through. Mm-hmm. And after that we hit kind of this little stretch along the highway or the biggest road. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there. And then as we turned off on the right, we get onto that, I think it's called Sugar Creek Road. And
yes,
that's gravel. So as soon as we hit that, we basically just started. Yeah, I think Matthew Wilson actually went first, and then I jumped across to him very quickly because I know how strong he is. And then I think Riley came with, I can't remember the exact sequence. Maybe Riley was already there. And yeah, basically after that, I knew if we could just keep the hammer down for at least 10 minutes, we should be able to get 30 and then 30 seconds or so. And then we just kind of pray that the guys behind are looking at each other with the whole lifetime battle happening.
Which I'd say you did keep the hammer down at 445 watts, amidst the fact that also if we zoom out a little bit and we actually look at what sort of terrain this is on too, like you said, it's gravel, but it's also kind of like rolling and dragging, and you're probably trying to work out, like, I guarantee you Riley and even Matthew, I'm sure yourself to a certain degree, were kind of cracked after all of this action that we saw beforehand. That was really hard.
Yeah.
So were you guys working together well? Or was there was Riley just sitting on or Matthew sitting on?
No, I mean, we all were hammering turns, just as, as equally as we could, without sending one out the back. Because at that point you need kind of as many, you want to keep it around 4 guys, I would say max. And then more than that, it's getting, there'll always be that syndrome of someone's going to sit on. So I was pretty happy with just the 3 of us. And yeah, Riley, he's obviously races a World Cup XCO. So I was like, well, I definitely know he can be there for 90 minutes at least, going full gas. And then Matthew Wilson, I know, also comes from a cross-country mountain bike background. So I was pretty confident in all our ability to just be able to dig and push some really aggressive watts.
You guys got a big gap toward the end. You ended up this section here. Looks like you kind of picked it up if you look at the low points are much higher. What happened in the end, at the final part of the race, when I know Riley dropped off and then Matthew had a mechanical at some point and ended up going there. Did you go solo here, and were you trying to extend the gap and solidify it?
Yeah, so that was so I did, you can kind of see just before that, there was quite a bit of a spike. Yeah, that one.
Right there.
I gave it a dig there to see kind of how Matthew was doing. It was 600 to kind of,
Yep.
And he struggled a little bit. I got a gap on him pretty quick, but he crawled his way back, but it took a minute.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, he's definitely hurting a little bit, because I was like, okay, I'm going to have to try to get rid of him, on the climbs at the end. And I was kind of confident that I would be able to, because it wasn't a full gas effort I did. I just was kind of testing to see what the reaction would be.
Yeah, 600 watts for a minute. Nice little test effort. Yep.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, if I really have to give it beans, I should be able to get a gap. I mean, we'll never know.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it would have been really cool to come down to a nice battle like that. And he's a super strong rider. And then, I went into the single track pretty fast, and I thought he was on my wheel, but apparently he had a mechanical. I think he cut his tire or blew the rim, something, but I wasn't sure. So I just got out the single track, and I was looking around, and I was like, oh, he's nowhere. And then I was like, well, I just need to put my head down now and just go.
Good move. Matt, it's insane. These sort of power numbers are unheard of. If we look back at 405 watt average, 431 watt normalized for this race, what you're seeing on screen isn't going to perfectly jive with that because of just some clipping stuff. So that's just wild, insane. Can we compare this to Little Sugar? Because this kind of puts it in context. Little Sugar happened the weekend before. It was a mountain bike race. You were probably in good position for you were in good position to maybe take down 3rd place, somewhere around there, 2nd, 3rd place even. But
yeah, Cam and I were away. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But then, of course, mechanicals happened with that race. That was the story of it. But I want to go into the start of this race, because this is kind of crazy what actually happened here in the start. So we're looking at the race file now, and I'll zoom in once neutral ends right around here, and we can kind of look at what actually happened, which, again, violence. For the first climb, you did 730 watts for 1 minute, 668 watts for 2 minutes, and then you had 461 watt average power, 519 watt normalized power for the first 10 minutes of that race once neutral let down, which is just the race
the
is
jet
62
lag out.
miles. Yeah, I'd say so. 62 miles and 100-kilometer race with 5,597 feet or 1,706 meters of climbing is going to be a 4 hour 14-minute race is what it ended up being. And you average 14 miles per hour, 23 kilometers per hour, average power of 329 watts and normalized power of 380 watts for that 4 hours and 14 minutes, which is insane in and of itself. But you started off a race, again, with 730 watts for a minute, 668 watts for 2 minutes, and then 519 normalized for the first 10 minutes. And the reason I'm sharing normalized there, it's a bit more representative. You can see all these drops, and that's because, especially in the beginning of that course, there's a speed limit to the whole thing, which makes these numbers even more insane because there's a speed limit. You can't, it's not just a power contest. You're constantly having to it's actually kind of, relatively speaking, pretty rare that you could put down full power on this course. But look at the difference in profile, man. Like single track here, and look at how much of it ends up being below threshold. And now let's look at something like this, gravel. It's so much more violent when you're not on that single track where you're stuck. Crazy to see how different the efforts were. Do you feel like it helped you at all for Big Sugar? Because these Big Sugar numbers are just absurd.
Yeah, I think I kind of got the idea off of Little Sugar, I went really hard and it's a very similar profile in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I knew what that did to the mountain bike field with single track and all that. So I was like, well, we're just going to have to apply the same for gravel.
Yeah.
Obviously with gravel, you need to do a little higher spikes to that 1,000 plus to kind of snap the elastic. Just because because of the slip aspect is the biggest problem in gravel. I have
the draft.
Yeah, the draft. I have a big draft, and you kind of need to get away before they can get in it. Otherwise, it's a problem. Whereas a mountain bike, you can kind of ride someone off raw power just because there's not so much draft. Yeah, these are the things I've learned through gravel racing.
This is interesting. The mountain bike versus gravel side of things. Matt, you ended up having a crash. You ended up having a flat. I think that the flat took you around 3 minutes to fix, it looks like, or maybe that was the crash. And I was looking at your race file here, right around here in this area, which is a bummer. And then you also had another little spot there, but that looks like it was around the neutral zone. So, or the feed zone, sorry. So, and then everything after this, by the way, this is the finish line and riding back. But, man,
that was
what could have been?
Flat, a crash, and another flat.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah, so.
What a bummer. Which I think Sophia might be the only rider that I spoke to all day that didn't have a flat. Literally the only one out of all the age groupers. I talked to a lot of people. I think she was the only one, which is crazy.
That's impressive. I need to get lessons.
So good job. Yeah. I think she's got a lot of finesse on the bike. And then on top of that, she weighs a bit less than you too, Matt.
Yeah.
Just a bit. This is true. So, I think probably that helps to some degree. So, Matt, I'm just going to go over my race really quick, which is absurd even talking about this in light of the fact that we just talked about your race. But I realized that I hadn't broke it down, and we had some people asking for it. So I DNF'd at Little Sugar, and I'm super bummed. I ended up breaking a spoke in my wheel, and when a rock got caught in between it and my frame, I think. And then the whole wheel just lost tension about halfway through the race, almost to the feed zone. So big bummer. But that said, some interesting insights from it. I had to do, so I ended up doing, I think, 485 watts up the first climb, but that was after doing and my FTP is at 306 right now. And I'm at 69 kilograms, and going from when neutral dropped, which was way earlier than I expected, we already had, I think it was 320 watts normalized going into. So I was into VO2 territory coming into doing that grass hill effort at 485. And that was about a minute and a half-ish, somewhere between a minute and a half and 2 minutes. So just shows like how hard that race is. And if you're going to do it, that still got me across the top of that climb in about 30th, which is nuts. So I was still a long ways back. It was 30th out of somewhere around 700 amateurs, I think, total or something. So, but that just shows for those sort of races, if you're wondering what it takes at Little Sugar to manage that, that's what you need. Thereafter, I think that I had a total for the day. It was like 2 hours and 15 minutes or something before I had to end the ride file. So probably 15 minutes of that was hiking after I blew out the wheel. So about 2 hours, and it was just like 281 NP, I think is what I had for the ride. And I think that for like 20-minute NP, the highest one that I had was around 319 to give it context. So hard race, man, and lots of mechanicals. I did get a flat, but it got fixed pretty quick. But man, when I look at your power, Matt, it just kind of blows my mind. So congratulations.
I am heavy.
Well done.
But yeah.
Well, sure, but power's power at the same time. So just insane, man. Really well done. Great job. Next up, and thanks for just checking in so then we can talk about these absurd numbers. I guess the last thing can ask, since it was 2.5 hours and you knew it was just going to be a massive amount of power you're putting out, what did you do for your nutrition for Big Sugar? Because I think I shared this on your Instagram. I think that it's like almost like a little over 2.5, almost 2.5 pieces of Costco pizza that you are burning every hour on the bike. So those are huge pieces. For those that don't know, they're gigantic, huge pieces.
So I had 2 bottles of Neversecond C90. So it's 90 grams of carbs. And then I had 5 C30 gels. And I think they were all caffeinated. Because I was like, well, we go all in.
So that would be somewhere around like 3. So you're probably somewhere around like 450 milligrams of caffeine, probably, that you took in.
Yeah,
somewhere around there?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a shot, caffeine shot of 200.
Oh, geez.
So
so 650 milligrams.
So
That's
anyway,
insane.
Unfortunately.
Now it all makes sense. And then you said 2 bottles of C90 and 5 gels. So that would be 180 and then 5 times 30, so 150. So 200.
I think it was...
So like 300 grams of carbs almost, roughly, that you took in?
Yeah,
so around 150 an hour?
Something. Yeah.
Around 150 an hour as well.
So it's pretty good. Like for that duration.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of... I think you can feel a little higher just because like there's almost not enough time for gut distress because it's short enough.
For sure.
And it was cool. You know, the weather was cool. It was pretty nice, humid, and then it got pretty cold at the end. So yeah, just have to absolutely give it everything you can to feel that type of effort.
150 grams per hour. Maybe, I don't even know if I want to say this, but upwards of 600 milligrams of caffeine. And again, just going over the stats here.
We had the gravel rave in the evening, so I figured it was okay. We were going to stay up later.
Yeah, good point. Again, these numbers, 405 watts average power, 431 watts normalized power for 2 hours, 13 minutes, fueled by 150 grams of carbs per hour and over 600 milligrams of caffeine for the race.
There we go.
Just insane. That's what it takes. The horse diet. Yeah. Amazing job. Well done, Matt. You've got Gravel Burn next. It's the inaugural gravel stage race with what I would call an absolutely star-studded lineup of athletes. Some road athletes mixed in there. This is started by the same folks that did Cape Epic, but it's not a team race, right? At least I don't think it's a team race.
Yeah, it's individual.
You're racing solo. This should be very interesting to see how this whole thing goes. It's clear that your form is okay and just fine, and things are good. So
it's exciting. You know, it's going to be 7 days of none of us really know what to expect. it could be hot. It's very unpredictable out that side of South Africa. So hopefully there's some live stream that we can watch. I'm not too sure, but it's going to be
I think
a good
there
one.
is. You're going to have some jet-lagged folks and some folks that are very tired from the end of a road season and a lot of other things, and also people that just aren't, you're at home right now, whereas most of these people are not. So it's going to be very interesting to see, and I'm keen to see the horse diet applied and see some horse watts put out. So,
oh yeah, there's going to be no choice to that.
That's right. Well, thanks, Matt. If for anybody wondering, if you want to go follow Matt, you can do that. He races for the Specialized Off-Road team. You can find him at most of the big gravel races, but you can follow him on Instagram too, and check out everything he does there. I have zero guarantees that TrainerRoad will bring you to horse level performance like Matt, but this much I can say: it is very common when people sign up with TrainerRoad and they build a training plan and they follow it. With AI adjusting their plan, it's very common for them to see 10 watts FTP increase in the first 8 weeks or so. It's pretty common. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, we see much higher in some cases, but I think a conservative estimate is that. It adjusts your training for you. It analyzes everything. It's amazing. So if you want to sign up and get faster, go do it, trainerroad.com. We'll talk to you all next week. Thanks, everybody.